Android devices?
Yes.
Affirmative.
Okay. Affirmative. So if I were to drop a link to an Android binary, you guys would be able to load it onto your devices and run it?
Yep.
For sure.
I
Let me
bet.
verify it's, now that I've rebooted the server, let's verify it's not crashing.
Is it just me, or is every time you go to use your Android devices, do you have to charge them?
Mine's rock solid. Champ.
It must be because I don't use them very often, so when I do go to use them, they're out of battery.
My daily driver is Android, so.
Oh, well, see, I will say that with the latest update to whatever the Android whatever that they've got going on, it's actually a lot better.
Well, they had to patch Stage Fright recently, so
yeah, right.
Maybe they put something new in for you.
Oh, great.
Hopefully.
I don't really know what that means. They put something new in for me.
It's a do you have a daily driver Android or you use iPhone?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Do you daily use your Android? Is that your main phone, or do you use an iPhone?
I don't have a phone.
He doesn't have a phone.
We gotta feed you and buy you a phone, Ed. Damn it! There's a backlog. It's
phone.
So you're a mobile dev with no mobile phone?
Okay, don't say it that way. That sounds really bad.
Well, that's a hook right there, I feel.
Well, see, there you go. That's the credit to Corona. Is you do not even need a mobile device in order to develop apps.
There you go. Nice, good save. Nice way to frame it. Mr. Negative over there made me sound like some kind of dinosaur. I've got mobile devices.
Would you just have like a flip?
I've got mobile devices. Ha 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 ha. You're fired.
My wife has a flip. I wasn't trying to talk shit. I was just saying.
Yeah, you were. Anyway, there's no doubt about that in my mind.
I just dragged my wife into the 21st century with an actual candy bar smartphone. So don't think you're bad. She's had a prepaid Samsung flip phone for the last 8 years.
Hey, don't worry, Ed. You're saving money not having one of those stupid things.
Exactly.
Hey, I got no problems whatsoever with what I'm be doing.
Yeah. Every month I get the phone bill. I'm like, really? Seriously? That's like a car note.
It's a kick right in the short stuff, huh?
It is. It is.
Sorry, guys. I'm playing with the server at the last minute to do this demo, and now it's foobarring.
I'm gonna get some water too. So
Especially given the fact that I don't really use my phone. I don't use the calling portion of it.
Right.
You know? And I'm always on my Wi-Fi. So what am I paying for again? Hey, Jason's on. Oh, let's see here.
Yeah, I got no reason for it. Let's delete that because that doesn't need to be there. I know. I'm seriously doing stuff in the background. I'll give you a hint. It's related to last week's topic. Which one is the question?
Right. Right. Hey, Jason, how's it going?
It's going all right. How are you guys doing? I'm sorry I'm late.
Good. I see you're at the casa.
Yes.
Hey, you've got a. Oh, I can talk. You have got an Android device too, right, Jason?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Oh, this will be very cool then. I'm gonna get all you guys to. I'm gonna upload a binary in just a minute.
Oh no.
You guys are gonna download it and put it on your devices, and then I'll display my screen, and we'll all run it at the same time and see what happens.
All right, I'll have to run to the other room and get my device and a sync cable, but I can do that.
Ed's gonna load it up on his Abacus, and we'll see how it runs.
Have you guessed what topic the topic is?
What's that?
Has anybody? Well, you weren't here when I said it, but I'm demoing. I spent the last hour coding up something to demo a concept from last week's topic.
Last week daytime or last week nighttime?
Last week daytime.
Okay. Right on.
So I'm plugged into my Surface 3, so I can charge my Nexus 7. Is that bad?
Somewhere my brain's half attached to this whole conversation right now.
That just feels wrong on some level.
All right, I'm gonna mute myself. I'll be right back. I just need to go grab.
USB connected device.
That didn't work.
Are we recording, Charles?
We are.
We definitely are. So don't say anything bad. Too late.
Didn't say anything too bad. I think I scared Sean from Corona from ever coming on the after dark because Eric and I were talking about the dongs that were being hung, and he was like, yeah, I'm probably just gonna not come in on that."
I think we've solved that problem, hopefully. I'm hoping so.
Okay, here's the link.
All right, link is in the chat.
Hey, Eric, you got an Android device? You're muted. You always start muted, man. Okay. If you wish, and Rob says let me in. Oh, you let him in. Okay. I'm so slow and behind here. Anybody with an Android device, I'm going to paste a link to the forum again. Go ahead and download that and install it on your Android device. And then run it. Do run. While you're doing that, I'm going to show my screen so everybody sees what happens when people start running it.
Oh, you're going to make me get up and go get my Android.
You don't have to if you don't want to. We'll have, if we have 2 or 3 people do it, it'll be enough. It'll probably crash, so it'll be, perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
So I'm not aware of any other Corona Hangout besides this one. This is the premiere. This is the varsity team right here. So if you could just give us a refresher of what exactly we're going to be looking at.
Last week we were talking about whether or not we could if we could achieve real-time multiplayer with physics in Corona.
Right. I thought you were talking about daytime. My bad.
No, did I say? Well, I get confused because I'm only half listening as I'm coding stuff up here. Well, the truth of the matter is I was coding madly, and then I rebooted the server to make this faster, and that crashed it. So I put it back to.
Interested to see, not to change the subject, but I'm disappointed he can't. I know it's probably crazy early in the morning over in Russia, but Sergey apparently is finished with a QR code scanner plugin.
Yeah.
Saw that.
Yeah.
You put the link up in IRC, but I cleared it. I don't know if Eric has it still or not.
Oh, did he? Yeah, I only saw his tweet, which just said that it's done and it's going through the approval process and all of that. But
he's not in IRC now. I wonder if Sean still has it. Let me see.
I'm pretty psyched to see what he's doing with that and to find out what method he used because whether it's actually built in that it reads it right there, or does it ping a server, or that type of thing.
I didn't know people still use QR codes.
There was somebody in the forums that was talking about wanting one. I mean, I guess that's one guy.
It's one of those things where I think it's neat. It's a neat thing to have.
I think if every device had a reader, it would be very useful.
Yeah, if it wasn't dependent on you going and getting an app to handle it.
There's too much friction there. I think that's the only reason it hasn't been a success.
I don't know, man. I've used it like twice and was like, that's kind of cool, and then never really did anything. Like,
I totally downloaded a QR code reader just because I was playing. I think I mentioned this game last week, Guacamelee. Has this funny little thing in a background where there's a QR code.
But what can you guys kind of talk, while Ed's doing his thing, can you guys talk a little bit about...
I'm waiting for you guys now.
Oh, you're waiting for us. Sorry. Okay, go ahead, Ed.
I'm plugged in. I got one device in my simulator running, and I'm hooked in. I'm waiting for other people. You can see my screen if you click on me. So when other people start running the app, more people should start showing up in the room. You're just going to have
I'm about to put it on my machine right now. So
it's
installing.
I'm installing it right now.
Okay.
The last update of Android totally wiped my machine. Everything that I had on my... I was like, what? Everything that I had on there. Just...
I don't update Android.
What type of device are you running, Charles?
Nexus 7.
As am I. And I think it worked pretty well for me. Hey,
you fools should just be flashing custom ROMs. I don't know what you're doing taking over the air updates.
Ooh, that's me. I'm going to start bumping into people. Oh,
somebody else.
That's me.
So as you can see, although it's possible to do, the movement starts to get pretty sketchy.
Can I change my color? Or am I gonna? I'm cool with red.
Quit and start again to change your color. Are you?
I'm red. I'm okay with it.
It selects a color for you, so there's no guarantee what you're gonna get.
I see what you're saying. So this is running the physics across multiplayer. Look at you.
So this is my 1 hour attempt at multiplayer physics. Somebody just knocked off Pinky. That's me out of the loop there.
I would say for 1 hour, this is extraordinary.
Yeah, less
Definitely
than
a good
400
proof
lines
of
of
concept
code.
for sure.
Actually, it's probably about 250 lines of code between Coronium.
Is this running on Coronium or
Yeah,
is
this is
it?
on Coronium, and I think part of the problem we're seeing here is that I have it running in debug mode still, so it's kind of slow.
Okay.
Somebody keeps knocking me off the board. Stop it.
I'm having too good of a time over here.
So, anyway, that's it. The answer is sort of. Can you do
Orange
it?
is a little jagged for me, but I mean, like you said, 250 lines of code. That's dynamite.
I
Yeah,
would say if you got this thrown together that quickly, I would say with some elbow grease and setting restrictions on things to, taking control of how much data is being passed, I think it's totally possible probably to get this in a workable form.
There's Eric.
Green got knocked off the board. There he's back. So part of
Jay,
what
did you say elbow grease?
He
Did
did.
you coin that?
He did.
a little bit of tunneling going on.
Did I say elbow?
Yeah.
No, I thought I said elbow, but
Well, I'm saying
Okay.
elbow from now on. I'm taking that.
I'm surprised this is still running with 5 people. I don't know where the green guy went,
Tim
but
Charles to check the domain.
Yeah.
That's it.
so the part I didn't get to put in here is to make that jitter go away. What I should have done was a flight time calculation. So what happens is you send a record to the server, and then the server responds back with an answer. And then from there I can calculate a flight time approximately. And then what I should have done is modified the sent records after that to use the previous flight time to modify the parameters like the velocity and stuff. Because what you're seeing is the velocity goes in, it's about 100 milliseconds, then it's another 100 milliseconds till the next person gets it, worst case.
Hey, I'm winning.
so you got 200 milliseconds worst case flight time, and then by the time the first person gets that record, it's way out of sync. So I needed to do some prediction, both on the send side and then on the. I could have tried to do it on the server side, but I kept the code's only like 5 lines of code over on the server, 10 lines of code. So.
It's running much smoother here than it is visually on the.
Yeah, it's really bad if you're looking at over what is this? Hangout, because Hangout's introducing its own latency. So.
Yeah.
No, but like for example, I'm seeing like the pink button in your simulator window is off the grid, but was not on my device. On my device, now that could be potentially because I'm on a more wide screen. I've got like a 16:9.
Well, I only, like I said, put it together in a very short period of time. But
actually, that's a curiosity. If we're working on different aspect
I'm
ratios.
gonna put my guy up. I'm the pink guy. I'm gonna put him in the. Oh, I'm gonna try. Somebody would stop hitting me. Okay, I put the pink guy in the upper left-hand corner.
How do I kill him with my sword?
I'm hitting the pink guy. Okay, the pink guy should be in the upper left. Oh, he's gone. Upper left-hand corner, unless some green guy over there pushed him over.
Sorry.
Ed, I'll say this: I like your little non-D-pad D-pad. I think used in the right game, that's got a slick little.
That's old school, Jay. That's up. That was like
That's,
back in 2012.
Get that right now. That's out on the GitHub.
Yeah.
No,
Who
it's
did
nice.
that?
It's like
Who
Charles,
did what?
who did that module? Do you remember? What was that dude's name? It was something Spanish.
But there are a few guys that did
from,
modules.
You know who I'm talking. He did Choco Run, right?
oh,
Yeah, I remember Choco Run.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah.
There's only 2 left on the board. Who's going to
Who's that
win?
fool's
That's the
name?
question. Mr. 79 or
It's
Mr.
not Alessandro, but something. It started with an A.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Oh,
Choco Run was a fun little game.
It was good.
I'm kind of surprised this is not working the way I expected. Because all the records are getting pinged back, so everybody should still be on the board, and yet they're not. That's kind of weird. Let me take a look at the database here. The other thing is I'm totally doing this wrong. I'm using a database to store the people's current record position instead of like keeping it all in memory at the same time. So that's another big latency hit for this. This is actually, if you're looking at the screen, you can see the database of everybody's position the last time I did an update. So. But hey, I worked with what I had for like a few minutes, and there it is. And I see.
Jason, that's the joystick link that I put over there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and thank you for the link to Sergey's QR scanner page.
Sure. For sure.
Well, now I'm gonna have to compare his joystick to. That sounded wrong.
Gonna measure joysticks.
Okay,
I think it's
stop it right
pretty
there.
much. I think it's pretty.
Compare that joystick code to my joystick code to see what.
It's kind of the same thing. He's got a video up on that link, Ed, if you want to take a look at it.
Well, I'll download the code too.
Yeah, it'd be funny if you guys came up with the same thing organically. That'd be pretty.
Well, you know, there's only so many ways to do a joystick, so.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Well, that's why it's like stand-up comedians and coming up with the same bit, at the same time.
Inner zone, outer zone, and then a dead zone to keep the stick from wobbling around.
Right. Like Louis C.K. said, Ed, he was not the only one that ever had an itchy asshole. So.
Oh, okay. You're using up all your bad words again. What is that? 2 strikes now?
Hey,
you guys know that story?
I got a question about game dev stuff.
Good, thank you.
Cut me off.
On something else.
So the server is the Amazon server, right? And you get that free yearly subscription for 1 year.
I'm using Droplet over on DigitalOcean, but it would work. This code would work the same on the Amazon server.
Because that's one thing, I got into this a little bit. I did multiplayer stuff with Chromium, whatever. And I got into it around last December, and then January I did some fun stuff. But I haven't really done anything since, and my free year is about out in November. I was wondering if anyone else does Amazon servers and how much it is a month. I think it's like $20 or $14.
I used the Droplet. It's $5 a month for me.
Ooh, Droplet, huh?
Yeah, over on DigitalOcean. By the way, I lied. It wasn't 5 or 10 lines of code. This is the code on the Droplet that's doing the on the Coronium that's doing the work.
Okay. Droplet, is it just as easy to sign up? I had a kind of a hard time with.
Oh man, it's so simple. I love. That's why I use it, because it's like drag and drop and a couple of things and you're done.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, some elbow grease, bro.
Okay, it's not literally drag and drop. It's select out of a list and choose. I mean, it's really simple. I can build a new server in like a couple minutes.
Sure.
And then what I do now is with Coronium is I've made like a base install where I got it all just the way I like it. And then if I need to do a test with Coronium, I'll simply make a new server and use that image. And then I'll go run it and run a single command to set up a different key, and it's done.
Oh, nice.
Because you got to have a special key and a password sort of thingy to log into the Coronium server.
It seems like that Amazon server was way too technical for me.
Yeah, it's a lot more load balancing and all that good stuff, but it's kind of technical.
Way over my head, so much of that stuff.
Yeah, I think the benefit of going with Amazon is, for my case, is if I'm running something that gets really popular, and the server gets too busy, that's too bad. I got to manually go in and change the slices, upgrade this, like make it, add more slices so that it runs better.
Sure.
But I think with Amazon you can have that be automatic.
Ah, gotcha.
So you got a lot of load balancing and all that stuff. But yeah, you're right. I looked at Amazon, I looked at this, and I go, there's no way I'm doing Amazon. That's too complicated for me. Like, I need to learn more stuff. Forget about it.
Well, I mean, Amazon uses a lot of terminology that's just not familiar to most people, and I think that makes it hard.
Yeah, you kind of need to be a network admin in order to get it. And not everybody is.
A little smarter with regards to, better educated with regards to networking stuff. I'd probably look at that and go, oh yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a pretty good background in network admin, and most of it flew over my head. So
You're right.
Well, they might.
And they have some of their own terms, right? Some of their own things that they use to refer to things. take this off.
All right, guys, I'm gonna turn off mine. You can keep playing with it if you want, but I'm shutting her down. Actually, I'm gonna go take a look and see what. This is interesting. I want to see what the load looked like on my server with all you guys pounding on it just now.
Do you guys remember how to turn on the ability to install apps in Android that are not?
Yeah,
It's different from device
do.
to device, but you and I are looking at the same one, so.
You gotta tap 3 times, or how many times? Like 9
7
times on
times to
build.
put it in developer mode, but you're talking about the trusted versus untrusted app?
Yeah, sideload apps sort of thing.
So if I go to settings on my Nexus 7.
Which build are you running?
Oh, let's take a look.
Because I just updated to the latest and greatest.
If it was released in the last week or two, I'm probably on the last one, but
Okay.
let's see, about tablet.
I'm sorry you ruined your tablet, Charles.
I know it. I mean, it's like did you hear that when it updated and then when it all came back up, everything was gone. All my stuff was gone.
I'm on Android 5.11. Does that help you at all?
That's what I'm on.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you got a first-gen Nexus 7, and it's practically useless.
Wow.
You installed 5.0 on it? It's no good?
I think I've got 5.1 something or another, and it's just
I'm definitely not switching now. Because I'm using a Gen 1 Nexus 7 too, and I'm happy with it on 4 point whatever.
Right. So, Jason, where were you going?
Well, I'm trying to. Oh, there we go.
I noticed they moved everything around.
Security. It's under the security.
Yeah, I went there.
Option, and then I see about unknown sources.
I don't see unknown sources. See, I see screen security, passwords, device administration. Oh, unknown sources. Yeah, it's all great.
Installation of apps from sources other than the Play Store.
But it's all grayed out.
Maybe.
That.
I have an on-off button.
I have a little switch.
Yeah, I have a switch. Well, you probably can't see it, but it's gray.
And you can't switch it to the
turn
right.
on your
Yeah, I can't do anything there.
developer options, Charles.
And that would be back where?
That's its own heading.
Yeah, go into About.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you don't need to do that, but we should do it anyway.
Not even About. It's all the main settings tab all the way to the bottom.
Main settings tab all the way to the bottom.
My bad. I've got a.
This is a great technical. It's the Charles figuring out his Android device show. Okay, we're looking at your screen.
Well,
I can see your problem. That's not a Nexus, is it?
Put them on the glass.
It's a Nexus 7.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, man, it looks totally different now. Okay, I believe you. You don't have to show me your Nexus.
Yeah.
Is just the button grayed out?
It is.
Tap it.
I did.
Gray is off.
I did.
Turn green when it goes on.
Have you already selected developer? You know, you've done your 7 taps on the thingamajabber?
No. Did it 7 double taps, 7 triple taps? It's been a long time since I've done it. What's that?
Let me find it.
Is that a real thing? There's like a cheat
it is.
you have to use.
It's just like a cheat code.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know if you can see here because I've got stuff that's grayed out, and I just tap it and it turns green. So.
Yeah.
Okay, go to About tablet.
Uh-huh.
How many Corona experts does it take to turn?
Right.
Okay, and I think it's just tapping on the Android version like 7 times or something like that. I'll look it up. It's probably better if I just look it up. Developer mode Android. Look at that Google power.
Yes, yeah.
How to enable developer options on your Android. Blah, blah, blah. Click, click, click. Wait, wait, wait. Find it. Find the Android build number in settings.
Build number, okay.
Where is it? Build number, kernel version.
Yeah.
Build number, yeah, okay, it's on
under About.
setting. Should be at the bottom.
And what's it say to do after that?
And just tap on it 7 times and it'll say you're in developer mode.
1, 2, 3, 4.
No need, you're already a developer.
No place like home.
No,
Charles.
it doesn't. It doesn't.
place
See,
like
it doesn't
home.
do that.
It
It
doesn't
used
do
to.
it?
It used to, but it doesn't do that.
Android 5.1 sucks. Oh.
5.11, yeah.
You got a root in Flash, Charles. I don't know what you're doing taking over the air updates anyway.
If you go in your garage, get a hammer, hit your device.
If it used to, what makes you think it's not working?
Oh, you know what? Hey, so okay. Oh, this is interesting. No, wait. So when I went back to I went to settings. I was tapping on the build, right, and then at some point I tapped on something else, and it took me to my users, and it said I had a guest, and then I had me, and then when I tapped on me, it said loading up Charles, and now all my apps and everything are back.
Ah, you were in a guest.
Well,
I don't remember having a guest mode before. I don't remember having a guest mode before.
This is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife.
Which was really distressing because I was like, I had development apps on there, and I had stuff that I'd purchased. I had everything. It was loaded with everything.
You look distraught.
And
you look distraught when
I
we
did look
started this
distraught.
hangout.
And now it's got everything's back, right?
You made a backup, right?
Yeah, right. Of my Android device. No.
Oh man, you're so.
You know what? We're gonna test this here. We're gonna see if it bricks mine because I've got an Android system update downloaded and ready to go.
Yeah.
Let's see what it does to mine.
It just I did not know that there was a secondary user on there. Why it went ahead and put it into guest mode when I'm the primary on the device. I don't know.
Nefarious.
It is nefarious. Very good word.
I will say multiple users on these devices is the one thing that I still can't believe. It was when they announced the iPad back in 2010. I was like, clearly there's going to have an option for multiple users, just like they do on OS 10. And here we are 5 years later, and they still don't do it. Apple's so helpful. They just buy another one. You got more than one person in your house.
That's your multi-user option. You can take two.
Buy another one.
Stack them on top of each other.
Oh.
Now you got 2 users.
I tell you what's bad is when I went to the family sharing. Right, when they said you can share all your apps that you purchase on iOS with your family, and so I added people to my family, and then there was a place there during that setup process where it said, okay, well we need to confirm your digits of your credit card number or whatever, right? And just to make sure that everything's for this first time. And you go to that screen and there was nothing. There was like just that message that you needed to confirm, and then there was no place to put in the numbers or anything, and you were just lost. It was just like dumped off onto some page that was broken, and I was like, well, okay, I guess that's never going to happen then.
Is anybody using some of those newer features? Like I still, and I don't know why I'm weirdly paranoid about it, but like the iCloud keychain, I'm just like, I want nothing to do with that. And there's no good reason. It's not like I'm keeping anything super secret, but the whole thought, every time I see a prompt for it, I'm like, nope.
Right now it's telling me I have the 200 gig iCloud backup or whatever, the storage space, and right now it keeps sending me emails telling me that my space is almost full. But yet, when I go to my devices and I look at backups, I only have maybe like a gig worth of backups, right? And it's like,
are you keeping is photos on your Mac maybe?
No. Well, I say gig. I have 49 gig of photos. I have a 29 gig of an iPhone backup or something like that, and then I have my normal, stuff off my machine, but it's not 200 gig, and it only shows me my backup for my phone. It doesn't show me anything else.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. So I gotta call them up and say, what's the deal? And I think it's broken because I bought a new MacBook Pro, didn't like it, and then sent it back.
Oh gosh.
And I think somewhere in that process it's mirroring something that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
As long as it's not mirroring it to somebody else who doesn't deserve to be seeing it.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, let's see.
I like how I've noticed, Charles, just from following you on Facebook and whatever, you're bold with return policies. You just, I'm going to try it, and if I don't like it, I'll return it. Who's your retailer of choice from that? Is it just Amazon because they make it all so easy to return, or?
Well, they definitely make it easy, and I don't have any problems doing that. But I just, if as long as the company has a clearly stated return policy, then I don't mind. Like I sent back a Cintiq and I had to pay the shipping back. So that cost me money. But for this other thing there was another thing that I'm returning today. The company was like, yeah, okay, we'll send UPS around tomorrow to pick it up. And I was like, oh, super, great. So
I have to say, I know because I saw your review of the Cintiq, and I haven't downloaded it yet, but I did get a Surface 3 with a pen, and because of your review, there's this edgeless canvas drawing app. What's it called? Starts with an M. Not Mayhem.
Mischief?
Mischief, and I think I'm gonna give that one a go because it looked like a really cool, sketchy sort of. Like Photoshop's Photoshop, and if you're working with a known quantity, the Photoshop is great. But if you just sort of want to sketch, it seems like that's a great option.
Yeah, Mischief is cool. It's got an infinite canvas, and so there's bitmap, there's vector, and apparently Mischief does some sort of different calculation. They don't do it like vector, so you have an infinite canvas, and then when you go to scale things, you still get clean lines. And so
but it's not pure vector.
No, I'll have to find the link. But there's an interview with the woman who's the creator of the thing, and she said it's based on math, but it's not vectors.
Huh. No, it seems cool, and it seems like pretty reasonable. I think it's like $25, but they have I think they have a free trial or something. So I'm waiting to download the free trial until I have a day or two. I can really dedicate some time to.
Yeah, and I think their pro version, the paid version, is like it just opens up some extra layers and tools and stuff like that. But
I think transparency. I think you have to go pro to have transparency and layers, right?
Yeah, right. But you can get the feel for it without paying. I mean, if you want to just try it out, you can. And then once you're $25 isn't anything, right? I mean, that's a steal. So.
Yeah, no, it seems. I mean, it seems like it has a lot of potentially really good uses and. For $25, like you said, I mean, if it's
and it's really good. I mean, it's good for. I mean, you could definitely create game assets on it, and you can scale them to the size that you want. And then when you go to export, you can tell it what size you want the image to be. So you can either show have it export the whole canvas, or you can export a selection, and then when you go, you can say, okay, now I want that selection to be this size, right? So because it will figure out how to export it so that it still looks nice on the back end. It's kind of weird.
So speaking of looking nice on the back end, did any of you guys see that forum post by I forget
Are we
what his
talking
name
about
is.
the guy who misscaled his assets?
I don't know about any guy.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead
No.
with your question.
No, not that guy. His name's Michael Wilson. I guess he released his. He created a kind of a embossed library. Like an embossed text library, like outlined. Here, I'm going to stick the link
I saw that. He said I didn't dig into it, but yeah, I guess he uses snapshots somehow to create outlined text.
Exactly.
You got a link?
Pretty
Or you
neat.
got
I didn't.
the title I can look
I
for.
stuck it everywhere. Yeah, I put the link in the chat there.
Okay. Got it.
I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't try to combine it with anything. So you have the efficacy of using it with sprite sheets, other images, and things like that. I actually haven't really done much with snapshots yet. I kind of embroiled in some other shit. So I don't know. Do you guys know that much about if it would be useful? Because in my mind, when I hear snapshot, I've read other links and other things like that. But I believe it's like an actual snapshot of the canvas, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to assume it is.
I mean, I think it has multiple potential uses. For me, my thinking on it in terms of when I read about it, I go, oh, what's the most useful thing to me is setting transparency on a group of objects, which you can't do with display group. You can with a display group, but you're going to get ghosting between them. But with a snapshot, you can set transparency on the flattened image of multiple display objects on top of each other, which I think is pretty cool.
I got it working. I got it working. Yay!
You're like the only
he
other
did
guy
it.
in the room.
So 20 minutes ago, Charles.
Somebody left their device running, otherwise you'd be alone, man.
I know it. Yeah.
Here,
Well,
let
see,
me see mine.
I have AirDroid, which makes it really easy to get apps onto the
Okay,
device.
there I am. Now you're not alone anymore.
But because my machine was screwed up, I couldn't load it.
What's AirDroid? Because I just use Android file transfer on the Mac. I just plug it in and drag the APK over and then open it up from a file editor. But
AirDroid is basically you. Let me show you here. Hold on, let me show you my screen.
It's like
You do that,
ADB, but
and
kind of with
I'm
a
gonna bring up
GUI.
something else here.
So
It's like ADB over Wi-Fi, right, Charles? Basically, that's what I use that relatively often. I like AirDroid.
yeah, well, it just makes things easy, right? I just want to be able to drag the stupid file onto the device
The
and
stupid file on the device.
So I click on app here, and then I drag the file from my file list, and then it just installs on my device.
well, that's kind of cool.
I mean, I think that debugging on Android is like 1,000 times easier for that exact reason.
Exactly.
Because it's so much more streamlined.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that you have to go into Xcode and view in this very small half of a window to view the console output, unless there's a way to make that bigger that I'm not aware of. But
Word.
Oh, you're talking about when you're doing.
like if I'm looking to read the console dump.
Yeah.
Maybe there's probably a better way to do it. I just, I go into Xcode and, look at the, what do they call that thing? What do they call that screen? I know how to get, like, the keyboard shortcut to get to it. The devices window, essentially, and then you can, click your device and pull up the thing, but it's full of other OS outputs, and it's not filtered. Again, there's probably all sorts of ways to accomplish this better. I try to limit my device debugging to only when absolutely necessary.
Fair.
And to be fair, I think the simulator, I would say, gets me 90% of the way there, if not more, in most cases.
Well, speaking of stuff that I saw on the forum that was kind of cool, there was a Dev Aaron Karp. He was posting about figuring out how to make his cloud safe support a little bit more fault tolerant, a little bit more secure. And there were a couple of. There was one. I don't know how many people are following Corona 273's posts, but he or she has a lot to say about a lot of different things, specifically social sharing. And so in this, they actually had a really interesting tip about token authentication. Again, I'm going to stick the link in here. Do any of you guys have any opinions on keeping your saved data safe when you're talking about saving it in the cloud? When you're actually making sure that it's pushed out between or across multiple devices. I mean, kind of like Ed in your program. In that quick proof of concept that you kicked up, if you start adding attributes in IAP, what would, in your mind, be the ideal way to get those across all users' machines? All of the users' machines, one, single user, and how would you keep that safe? I was having this conversation with a bunch of people in the IRC as well. I think Mike was on that, but he bounced.
I do something that requires a little bit of security. I've got a game coming out, hopefully at the end of this month, working on with Mike. I can never say his last name, but Mike H. And anyways, we have user IDs and passwords and emails, and I don't like to keep the emails in unencrypted form. Mm-hmm. So that would kind of count for what you're talking about. And what I do is a custom solution. I made basically just a custom cipher that I then run on the devices, and the cipher is all encoded in the app. So it simply encodes it, sends it, and then it's stored on the database. It never goes across the web unencoded. And then I decode it on the machine that is received on using the same cipher. And it's not really sophisticated, but for me, it's enough. It's a rotating cipher, so it's not much. It's not much that somebody who observed it could really do to figure it out, unless they really had lots of computing time or lots of interest in in trying to decode.
I find that a lot of people are. I mean, I hear you, Ed, for sure, and I feel like there's a lot of people are split on security from that end. 'Cause, I mean, I think obfuscation is really. Oh, there's Mike again. I think obfuscation is really the only real option, because after that you start getting some serious diminishing returns. Because if you start spending 51% of your time keeping people from stealing something from you, then you're not spending enough time making something that's worth stealing.
I think
Yeah,
always
that's
been
the
my
question, and I agree. I don't spend a lot of time trying to secure the data, because there's always somebody out there who's smarter than me who's going to be able to steal it anyways.
Yeah. Protecting your users is probably
secure
better.
it from casual people.
Yeah.
Casual stealing and cheating and stuff like that. I don't.
Right, you want to keep the script kiddies out.
That I wouldn't want to have somebody steal and then have to be responsible for it. So like people's credit card numbers or something, I'd never store something like that.
Is that something we even need to? I mean, if you're using, Google or Apple's in-app purchases, all of that's handled on their end. So it's sort of that I would be collecting. I think potentially the most sensitive information that I think I could see myself collecting from a user would be something like an email address.
Right. Then
I think to myself, if that's staying on device, if it's purely on device, part of me goes, it's if somebody has access to this device, they're going to be able to get that email address a heck of a lot easier than by digging through, the files of my app.
No, I was thinking more like, if you buy IAP, it gives you, you become stronger.
Right. So
you're trying to
local in-app purchase or.
And they just figure out how to.
I don't do anything to secure that. I use the built-in methodology for getting the in-app purchase. So I'll go through the store, make the purchase. There's nothing really you can do there. But when somebody makes a purchase, let's say they buy some coins or they buy a feature out of an app, then I store it locally and I simply just cipher encode it, so that it doesn't mean anything if they look at the raw format.
One thing I did once, and this was I don't know, I don't think I'm giving anything big away here, but in social poetry, because I was using ads already, so it was, at that point, it's game to use the advertising identifier. I set a flag for whether the person has, made an in-app purchase or not, right? And it's like a non-consumable, you buy it once, you get it forever. And so it's a flag, it's either true or false. But what I did do to try and make it more difficult for somebody to say, hey, I can just go into this file and say, made purchase equals true, the key for that flag was their advertising identifier. So it's specific to their device. So even if they were digging through and said, I'm going to find out what that flag is, if they use that same key on any other device, it's not going to work.
Yeah, or if they tell somebody these are the steps, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It could be circumvented. Something that's not too hot, like difficult, but it's enough for casual people to go, forget it.
Yeah. And listen, AAA studios are getting hacked. I'm not going to stop a dedicated hacker from getting.
Right. There's nothing you're going to do to keep people from cheating.
But I can make it. I can do my best to make it to not roll out the red carpet.
Right. Now, Michael, weren't you talking about using a device SID for desktop builds when people were talking about deploying for Windows, for Win32 and Mac desktops? I remember, did I see that in a forum post, or were we talking about that in IRC? That's the problem about getting an IRC now, is I forget where I saw what.
No, that's Eric's fault. Just wanted to see Eric turn around, that's all. I'm just messing with you, Eric. You're muted, buddy. Sorry.
You just heard his name.
He did. He totally is. There's no what? That Ed.
Eric, do you know what I'm talking? I mean, Michael, do you know what I'm talking about?
He might not be there. He might just be muted.
Somebody was talking about deploying for Steam, and they were wondering about encrypting data, this, that, and the other thing, and you could actually with the platform named Git device.
So I don't use it very much. Yeah, I mean.
Right. The Git info API returns a unique identifier for your desktop machine.
Right.
Michael's not even. He's away. He's getting a code.
I kind of remember this question you're talking about now. Right.
Yeah. Mike, I think Mike was just chiming in. Mike, do you remember what I'm talking about?
I honestly don't. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. I know it's around here somewhere.
I bet you Google will find it faster than anybody. Crypto.
I talked about it in IRC, I think with Lurg, and we had a debate over like how much effort should you spend trying to protect your code.
Yeah, I guess that's what it was.
Returns pretty quickly.
So what were your thoughts on that, Alex? Were you saying that you thought it was a good
I was
thing,
saying obfuscation is really the only way to go, like because Lurg wants encryption heavy, and not to put words in his mouth, but I think he was saying that he wanted it built into Corona, I think. And obviously, that would be cool, but it might, again, be diminishing returns, and I think that's what Mike was saying, is like, if somebody's determined, there's nothing that can be done. Exactly what Ed was just saying now. I kind of feel the same way.
Actually,
and I was just saying, if you can make it...
Go ahead. Sorry, I cut
No,
you
yeah, I
off.
was saying, if you can deter the common... Oh, you know what started the conversation is that I was just sharing an anecdote from one of Alex's past lives, when I was working for a large company doing support for whatever, blah blah, and their inane practices on how they were trying to make more money. Essentially, what was happening is they sold licenses. You could use more licenses than you bought. That was by design. And then sometime later on in its life cycle, they started calling customers, breaking out the vodka. I see you, Jay. Classing it up.
Okay. We're going to unvideo you now.
Right. After a couple years, they would come after the people that were using more licenses than they had bought. So they were like, "Oh, I see you're using 6 licenses. You only paid for 3. You owe us $60,000."
That's the kind of money I want to make, except, yeah. Hey, I just posted a link to Enigma. This was what Steven brought up, a.k.a. StarCrunch, in the forums as a solution for people who wanted to like protect their Windows binaries.
This is for protecting Windows binaries, is that what you said?
Yeah, so basically what it looks like is some kind of like virtual wrapper around the whole binary so that it's not exposed when running. So it's like a virtual disk and the whole thing, so none of the content can be supposedly seen.
Interesting.
Yeah, I haven't tried it out yet, but supposedly Steven's getting into the test run, so we'll find out.
We're talking so much tech on this one. I'm sure everybody's super excited.
So, okay, if we're talking too much tech, I got an art question.
So much, not too much.
Oh, okay. I saw a post that I tried to answer. Let me find it. Today or yesterday, and what this guy did, unfortunately, he got like halfway through his project or something and realized that he had chosen a resolution for his art that was too low.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah. So I told him, you're SOL, buddy. No, I told him is you got basically 2 choices, and let me find the darn thing. Thought I'd find it by now so I could just show you. But in a nutshell, I'm trying to, that's one of my favorite phrases. I say it all the time, nutshell. I told him basically that he would either have to start over or live with it. But if he lives with it, it ain't going to look as good on high-resolution devices like the iPhone 6 and iPad Air and whatever. But I'm wondering if there's not some other kind of advice. Now, I know this kind of question is really hard to answer because we haven't seen his art, and that a lot of that depends on it. Yeah, there it is. I drew resolution too small.
That sucks.
But I told him, live with it or scale up. But then I think there might be a third option here, depending on the...
I think it would depend on the style of the art, right? Because, I mean, there are ways to, like, for example, take Photoshop and create a vector mask for something, and then, you know, depending on the style of the art, if it's all smooth lines, you know, you might be able to convert that into a decent looking vector, which at that point can scale up, but it's going to depend so much on the style.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to try to give him another option because he seemed pretty unhappy with
this. This touches on something I've been curious if other people approach this the same way I do. So, you know, I still see a lot of the official sort of Corona documentation still advises working with sort of the 320 by 480, you know, base thing. And I go, you know, you can't build for a device, at least an iOS device, with that low of a resolution anymore. You know, they don't support it on iOS. I want to say the 3GS was deprecated with iOS, certainly 7 and possibly 6.
Rob.
All right, my time to chime in on this.
Well, let me finish, because here's the funny thing is, and maybe you'll tell me that I'm crazy.
You're crazy.
This is how I tend to work with most of my project when I start with. I use an iPad 1 or 2, 1024 by 768 as my base. And so I only, in most of my projects, unless I know that I really need to target a lower resolution device, I use 1024 by 768 as my at1x, and I use 2048 by 1536 as my at2x. That's my safe area, and then I build a bleed in for all of my screen-wide graphics that will help me with wider, you know, devices.
Mm-hmm.
And in my testing, running it, even on like an older, like an iPhone 3GS, again, it's going to depend on the graphics you're using. The performance was fine. And so it simplifies my process so much to make 1024 by 768 my at1x. And I don't know, maybe it's been working for me, but
no, you're not crazy. But go ahead, Rob.
No, you're not. I mean, Brent and I have been. I mean, when we started pitching the Ultimate Config Lua and then the modernized version of it, way back then we were suggesting that maybe we should consider maybe an 800 by 1200. And we worked out the math for making the work on different devices and stuff. And, you know, I've started using that, and I mean, there really wasn't any problems until we ran into this little thing called the widget library. And I don't want to say it's the problem, because at the end of the day, Apple, even when these new iPhone 6s came out, they're still doing everything on a 320-point system. You know, everybody that came out that was showing how the new screens work, everything was based off of 320. Apple represents the largest share of our devices that apps are being sold on and where revenue is being generated, and it's kind of hard to fight that. Then you go to the Android side. They're based on 160 dpi. Most phones are a 2-inch wide screen, 2 inches at 300 or 160 dpi, 320 points available to you. So the device makers are encouraging us to stay at that level, and it's hard to really justify. You know, I listen to people in the forums say, well, you know, if I move something, I'm moving it 4 pixels on my 4X devices. Well, that's true, but you can also move things 1/4 of a pixel, because it's not a pixel, it's a point.
Yeah.
And just mentally, that's hard to work with, because, I mean, if I wanted to position something at 321 points on my screen, you know, down versus 322 points, it is going to be a 4-pixel move on the high-resolution screens. But again, we go back to, you know, that's kind of what the device makers want us to do.
It also probably helps with best practices on smaller screen devices. Just because you have those extra pixels doesn't necessarily mean you should build for it, because, you know, at the end of the day, you got to have a finger. You got to, you know, work off of
And Apple's saying 44 points is the minimum touch size, and it's just a lot of work to go past that. Things like transitions in physics are going to be smooth because they're going to use fractional points or fractional pixels as they're being computed through their moves. So this big, my app's going to just look jittery. That's not going to be the case. So then we come down, well, what can we do? Well, if you want to use 320 by 960 as your base, or you want to use 1024 by 768, go for it. Build your artwork that way. It's not wrong to do it that way. But when it comes to us producing our sample apps, we have to have some place to start, and there's not a lot of reason for us to do that, which kind of leads us back to the widget library. There's only a couple of the widgets that have scaling problems, picker wheel being the probably the worst example of it. But if you want to use a widget new button, and if you're using graphics for it, size the graphics however you want. It'll still work the way you want it. If you want a text button, just give it a bigger font, or smaller font. So, if you don't widget new switch, if you don't like the one button, provide your own image sheets for it. Almost all of them are, you can provide your own artwork for. So, and anyway, if you're putting widgets inside of a game, you probably want to match the look of the buttons to your game anyway.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily want to have the native iOS-looking switch there. So, I mean, like in my games, I always use the black toggle switch with the 1 and the 0 on it for my on and off button. It's just my style of doing things. So, I mean, even the widget library, which some people will say is a problem, well, it's really only a problem for picker wheel. And how many games are actually going to be using a picker wheel? Yeah, probably not that many. So if you want to use a bigger content area, go for it. But our samples and stuff are going to stay 320 because...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not personally advocating for Corona to necessarily change. It's just one of those things where I said, like, this is working for me, but am I sort of flying? But there are things that you have to take into account too. Like sometimes I'll make I'm a big fan of using like I have I don't know, a half a dozen to a dozen sort of positioning variables that I define in my main.lua. Screen width, which is the number of pixels or points, for the actual screen I'm using, and these are all accessible through the display library, but I sort of assign my own global variables just to make it faster and easier for me. But I will sometimes, so if I'm making a game or an app that will be running on an iPad and an iPhone, and I know on an iPad it's just text is just going to be bigger, right? So rather than defining a text size as a specific numeric value, sometimes what I'll do is, so for me, let's say it's a portrait-only app. If I'm on an iPad, I'm going to have that 1024 is going to be my screen height. If I'm on an iPhone, which has the wider screen, it's going to be taller than that. So what I'll do is calculate the text size based on that screen size. So screen height multiplied by whatever, 0.25 or whatever it is. And so when it's on the smaller screen, it's going to result in slightly larger text, which makes it a little bit easier on the eye. So sometimes I'll do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's working for you, go for it.
Yeah.
But the one last thing on the scaling side, if you started and you create all your artwork to work on a Retina screen at 2048, and we have to downsample all that art to fit, a 640 by 960 screen on an iPhone 4, where there's limited memory and you're using a lot more textures with the really big images, and then we got to do all that processing to downsize it. So, but if you're having 1x graphics and 2x graphics, then the amount of scaling is not that big for the older devices. So I wouldn't hesitate to do what you're doing.
Yeah, because the way I think of it is, a 1024 by 768 is not that far off from a 960 by 640. So it's not, I'm not too worried about wasting texture memory. Obviously, if I was running on a 3GS, that could be an issue. But if I'm setting a minimum, if I'm setting a minimum, OS at 7, that's just sort of a non-issue. I mean, in my mind, 3GS is deprecated at this point. I don't really take it into consideration in terms of testing. And iPad 1, as much as I think it's still a capable enough device, hardware-wise, it's just not. They just don't update it anymore. So,
well, and with Apple's latest requirements that everything be 64-bit, even updates now, those aren't going to run on a 3GS anyway. So,
right.
I mean, the oldest device you're going to get back to is an iPhone 4. And that
might change in the fall.
Yeah, and that'll go. The iPhone 4s are likely going to go away with the. Well, probably not. I think they're going to keep iOS 9 on the iOS 4 for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
I think with regards to your scaling and your choice of resolutions, the only time you're ever going to get into problems is on Android devices, really. Old Android devices.
Well, there's also still a lot of underpowered new Android devices out there, particularly the knockoffs that you can buy at Walmart and stuff like that.
Well, and it's funny. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just being a snob, but part of me is just like, I just can't worry about this. It's just too much under the sun to worry. I'm not going to let myself worry about it.
Just zoom stretch it and forget it. That's what I do.
That's what I tell my trouble clients. Just zoom stretch it and leave me alone.
Agreed. It's too much work. I mean, for the love of God, you can't you can't start worrying about all the. I think I got a crash report from somebody's some crazy device they got off of Merimobiles that for $60 that they're using in Kuala Lumpur or whatever. That's
but
great.
It cost me $10 at Walmart. Why can't it run the thing?
Right, exactly.
Because it cost you $10 at Walmart.
Right. So I mean, you gotta find that sweet spot.
Hey,
here you guys go. I think this is a recent Android fragmentation report.
Yeah, I know. This picture pretty much says it all.
It is.
El Fragmento.
But it's pretty.
I don't necessarily think it's bad that there's so many devices and it's hard to target them. I mean, it's just hard. And so you have to decide, okay, you look at this picture and you say, I'm going to take this circle. It's going to have a little bit of this. It's going to have mostly this and this, that, or the other thing. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's wrong. Does anybody think that's a bad thing to try to pick and choose what you are targeting?
No. I think it's a great idea if that you really think that makes sense for your product. For example, if you really think that most people who are going to want to use your app are iPad users and you target the iPad, that makes total sense.
Well, I know there's a guy. Who's that dude? Ed, do you remember Michael Langdon? Is that what his name was? You know what I'm talking about? He was that guy that he only wants to target devices that are running 2.3 or less of Android because he does actual evangelism. I think he goes to developing countries and has
well, he's probably got a bit of a problem. Didn't he make a post where he's like, why can't I build for old ones anymore?
Right, exactly.
So you're saying he's specifically going to countries where they have low power devices or whatever.
They are old power devices. They got to go somewhere.
Right.
Right. So I think, and that was his frustration. Understandable, I guess, from his standpoint. But I don't know. I think Corona is one of the last SDKs that's targeting that can even build and produce something for those old devices that would be halfway usable. Rob would probably be able to talk to that a little bit better, but.
When anybody ever gets irate about something that Corona does or does not do in the forums, I pretty much just tell them, it does all these other good things, and you're really not limited just because you can't do that one specialized thing that you're really trying to do. Or if you really, really, really want to do it, go do it with Enterprise. I mean, you probably can't do this older version bit, but pretty much everything else. I just, you see complaints from people about, it doesn't do that thing.
Where it's like, hey, why don't you just go code it in Java? Well, because that's hard. Oh, is it? That's what our engineers said.
Right. I mean, I think. Oh, sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
I was just chuckling along with it. You know, I mean, you got pressures coming from both ways. I mean, there's a lot of people who are going to want us to support Android M, even though I have no idea how on earth that's going to run on my Nexus 7. People are going to want that. Well, when you do that, that may mean we have to bump the minimum up again. You know, you can't. That's why iOS only gives you a couple of versions of iOS that it supports. It's really hard to make an app that spans from 2.3 all the way to 5.2. So, you know, some things have to give, or, you know, Google will come out with a new version of Google Play that changes the minimum for some reason, which is the reason that our minimum went to 2.3 the last time. And that killed the Barnes & Noble market. Because there's a lot of Nook colors and Nook tablets out there that only can take Android 2.2. And honestly, that was my most successful store. So, you know, at some point you got to give. You can't have the best of the best while maintaining the least common denominator.
So when we talk about the least common denominator, what's everybody targeting? What's everybody's least common denominator?
Android or iOS?
Android.
I've got a first-generation Motorola Zoom, and I feel like I don't even know that it's a requirement for me to get it to run on that at this point. But if I can get it to run well on that, I feel good about it.
Actually, I got a Nexus Gen 1, and I'm happy with that. Go Eric.
I got a Samsung Galaxy Avant, and it's like the Galaxy series.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I got it is I went into like a T-Mobile, and they were like, oh, look at all these Galaxy 4s, Galaxy this. And I was like, okay, what's your most common but most affordable? Because that's what most of your users are going to be running on anyway.
Right.
And so they had like this thing sitting against the wall, and it wasn't like, it didn't have a fancy display. But he told me, he's like, we sell more of these than any phones in here combined. And
So
like,
what is it again?
Galaxy Avant, it's like $150.
Uh-huh.
You know, so it's one of those that like you sign up for your phone and it's free, or it's not free but you pay it off and it's like real cheap. You know, that's the kind of thing you want to target. You're gonna make a mobile device.
Yeah, I was wondering like, yeah, what's everybody's bottom platform just in regards to that? Like I've got like an old ass iPod Touch that I always say, okay, look, if this thing can chug through something, then you know I'm going to be happy about it. I've actually got an Xperia Play that can run things faster than some of my newer devices that I have over here. I've got an LG G2 that's actually, I guess that's kind of new. I don't know how new it is now I think about it. I guess 2013. That can be choppy on certain things it's good on. Like I was just curious.
So as long as it doesn't throw up on you, you're good.
Exactly. As long as the Xperia Play doesn't throw up on me, I'm happy.
Yeah, my low end target is the Nexus 10. What's that?
I said, hey Charles.
Yeah, I got the Nexus 7 and I have the Kindle Fire.
Gen 1 or
I have a
Gen
Kindle Fire.
I have the original Kindles, but the Kindle Fire, but I don't ever pull it out.
Yeah,
No,
I have one of those as well.
hard to upload to.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's exactly it. It's hard to get stuff on it, and it's just I don't ever pull it out. Batteries are always dead.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to throw something.
I think my Kindle Fire batteries are better than my Nexus 1. If I actually turn it off, it stays off and doesn't drain the battery. If I turn my Nexus 7 off, the battery will die.
Mine always turns itself back on. I just got to look at it sideways. It turns back on. The Nexus Gen 1.
But I've got a first-gen Nexus or Kindle Fire, and I've also got an old Nook Color. But I'm not putting anything on the old Nook Color anymore because I'd have to go back to an old build to do that. And well, I've moved past that. So I would say the Kindle Fire Gen 1 is probably my oldest device.
Something I think is interesting about all of this is like when people get really, sort of, I don't know about irate, but they, people have strong opinions about when you bump the minimum supported OS. And part of me goes, well, what are your motivations as a developer? Maybe you're just really altruistic and you just want to see your game played by as many people as possible. In that case, I get it. There's part of me that goes like, well, are you looking to to have people buy this app. I go, because there's a certain school of thought that goes like, the people who are, and God bless them, there are people who have all sorts of reasons for buying the budget phone. They're not necessarily the people that are going to be paying to buy your app.
Uh-oh, Eric's got something on this. Go for it, Eric.
I think in the case of the guy that Ed and I were talking about, I think a lot of his deal was just that he wasn't worried about buying it. I think a lot of people aren't worried about buying. They're trying to get in.
Which I totally.
Yeah, I think that's
which is
where
great.
people are coming from as far as targeting low-end devices. I mean, I used to try to with CGAD. That was kind of my idea. I was like, what can I just want to make sure that it was, it worked well on older devices, just because I wanted to see, just because I wanted to do that. But for like, I don't know if Eric wants to talk a little bit about Questlore 2 and if it's still look at all this, and if he's targeting a higher end device, or if it's running on his Avant, he's happy with it. I don't know. Like the next iteration of CGAD that comes out, I'm going to be targeting. If it runs okay on an iPhone 5, that'll be my base. I'm not even going to worry about Android for the most part.
Well, like Rob said, I'm kind of forced to now because 3GS is becoming irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Charles, you did some spine stuff?
Uh-huh.
I saw a thing on your site about spine.
Yeah.
It's what is it, a little animation tutorial? I didn't get a chance to look at it. I'm going to check it out after this.
Well, yeah, spine is 2D animation, basically being able to lay out your characters and animate them.
Yeah, I have it up right now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. It's I I've animated a couple things with it, but I haven't ever put anything into Corona yet. I'm going to dump that tonight.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I mean, they've done a lot of work on it, made it really streamlined. It's pretty neat. I mean, even if you don't use the whole workflow that they have there, just being able to lay your stuff out and then.
Does that video have a tutorial on how to grab it into Lua?
Let me see if I can find that while we're talking.
Okay, cool.
And Steve is here twice now.
Well, I want to say I don't have a lot of experience with Spine, but I think they have their own sort of Corona library, right, for working with the files that they export. But I want to say too, there's some third-party solutions in there for dealing with
Spine?
With exported Spine documents, correct?
There's a Spine helper library that I'm aware of.
That's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, the big complaint I've heard from users about Spine is that two things. One, they feel like it's kind of slow because it does some of the operations in a pseudo-slow way. And two, they complain about Corona. They say, oh, Corona doesn't support this XYZ feature that Spine could use to make this all so much more efficient. Why don't you guys get on it? And I'm like, yeah.
I want to say the Spine guys are sort of feeding that fire, not necessarily maliciously, but I think it's on their website where they sort of, in a FAQ or something, right? They're sort of like, well,
those guys are probably doing pretty good considering how many targets they're hitting with Spine.
Well, they were a Kickstarter, right?
Oh yeah, they made a good bundle on Kickstarter, and then they were successful afterwards as far as proliferating to multiple targets. Now I'm sure it's been a lot of work, but they look as if they have been quite successful.
Right, and it's been what, a year and a half, maybe 2 years since that.
Oh, probably almost 2 years now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
All right, guys, you guys can start talking smack about me. It's time for me
okay, hold on. Before you leave, I just wanted to say one thing. You mentioned the picker widget.
Yeah.
I got a new picker widget replacement coming out. It doesn't use the same syntax, but it's fully scalable. Doesn't have the problems that the old picker has. Because I hear so many people complain how the picker isn't scalable. So.
Good. You'll be a rock star. Well, you're already a rock star, but you'll be a mega rock star for that.
Yeah, I hope so. All right, well, take it easy.
Cool. See you guys next week.
Later, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Go, Charles.
Oh, I'm just trying to find this because there's
finally we can talk shit on it, Rob. Come on.
Because there's some Lua runtimes here, but I'm trying to make sure those are the right ones for Corona. Anyway, you guys keep talking. Oh, here it is. Spine Corona.
Oh, we got nothing to say.
I know you just everybody just shut up. I'm like, okay.
Everything goes to shit.
Yeah, here we go. Here it is. Spine Corona, and then it's got it was updated 12 days ago. Well, at least README file. It was updated 12 days ago.
Did you guys see that? Does anybody know Danny Glover? Has anybody ever worked with him before?
Yeah.
Awesome. Everybody's a big fan of the Lethal Weapon series. Did everybody see that he put out the?
No, we're talking of the other Glover.
Iron Eagle was a great movie. Was that
sweet.
Danny Glover? No, that was who was in the Iron Eagle?
I thought you were referring to.
He was in Predator 2.
Oh man, there was African American actors in a lot of action movies in the '80s, sort of the same age, so I get them confused.
Yeah.
You guys have your ghetto pass. You could say black. You don't need to say African American. You might not be from America, and you might not be from Africa either. That's a misnomer coming up these days. You could be French American, African American. You never know. Just say black. It's way easier. But anyway.
Either way, Donald Trump's going to talk smack about him. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Talking about smack about black folks. Danny Glover came out with like an offline Corona viewer API. Sorry, offline Corona API viewer. I just linked it up. So it's just basically like a desktop app that pulls down the offline documentation to read as you see it. I don't know if anybody saw that or if anybody had any idea.
I did see it. I thought good on them. It's a thought I've had for sort of years about maybe packaging something as an app, as like a Corona buddy, and I've thought about like having links to the API docs so you could view them, and then maybe bundling them along with the Corona Labs made samples so that you could sort of see them in real time. And every time I think about it, I go, a number of people would probably find it helpful. But at the end of the day, it's saving you a few steps, but it's not something you couldn't just do on your own, and it would take a good deal of work. So I would always get 5 minutes into creating a custom search in my, the Google toolbar, and I'd be like, yeah, to hell with it. I'll just pull up the docs and search there. Like, what's the difference? So, this is definitely super cool that he did that. I mean, as far as like offline documentation for things, I think this is extensible to the idea that you could do this with pretty much any, API offline documentation that you need, and so it's just going to be an ad hoc, documentation repository for you to search on your own, on your local machine. I know a lot of people like the offline docs. I've never downloaded them or used them. I was actually wondering if anybody ever did or what they use them for.
I download them just in case, but when I run them locally, I get... because the way my system's set up, it's actually slower than if I go to the website and get them there. Which sounds stupid, but it is. And I don't want to burst your bubble here, but back in 2012, when Corona was still fresh and new, somebody made one of these. An offline documentation.
Was it offline?
Yeah. It was an application that you could swipe through and look at the. You could build it for you build an app, put it on your device, and
look at this cool little Corona Geek Chrome plugin thingy, Bob.
I know. I forgot that it was even out there. I created it back in 2012.
Check you out.
So it adds it's a Chrome extension. It adds a little button to your toolbar there, and you can.
Now, is that auto-updating? Is that going to have the most recent stuff?
Honestly, I don't remember.
I don't know. You got four or 5-star reviews of it.
You wrote it? I'm afraid to install it. It might try to steal my secrets. Look at you looking all... Oh, I love this picture of Charles. Charles looks so gangsta in this picture.
What picture is this? Hang on. Now I really gotta look at this.
It's got jokes over here. I want to see them now, too.
It's too funny.
Oh yeah, check you out down there.
I should probably go. Yeah, I should probably go in and make sure this thing still works.
He looks kind of gangster.
I wouldn't let you date my daughter.
That soul patch is super sketch, Charles.
Nice.
You look kind of scary in that picture, my friend.
Do I?
Yeah. You got this look on there like, you better click on that, frame. You better.
You're peering askance. You're looking askance.
Click on audio. I see you're going to click on audio. Don't click on it.
I do have a scowl on my face, don't I?
Sorry.
It's better than this picture though.
Oh yeah, well, anything's
I like
better
the Grizzly
than the
Adams.
beard.
Yeah. I was either I was either gonna
That was your bluegrass phase, Charles.
milk some goats or something. I don't know.
You were kicking in a strumming.
I guess I should turn off
You
my
were working
screen
hard
so
on
can
that.
see what I'm
I don't know.
doing.
It was good. I actually kind of miss that some days.
That dude's gonna get way more love at ACL.
All right, so everybody's seen the offline document viewer that I thought was so original.
No,
So
I
I
didn't
will
say
not
that.
put that into.
Wow, that
How
is not at
dare
all
you
the
come to us
message
with
I'm
fresh
thinking.
ideas?
My message
That's what we
was
get.
is that I'll take a look at it and I wonder how it is compared to the other one. I mean, other people
Gotcha.
have done other things, and so I'm curious to see what this person has done. There, look, I
Yeah.
clicked on it.
Have you ever seen any other of Danny's other stuff, Ed?
I was going to say yes, but no.
He did the, was it the Chart Boost plugin, guys? Can somebody help me out? What was the
No.
plugin?
No, somebody else did the Chart Boost plugin, but he did.
He did.
No, that was
He did the PayPal plugin and
PayPal, that's it. PayPal and the Amazon API.
and then there was like a Keep or there
KIP,
was a
KIIP.
Because Danny was
Yeah.
Corona Lab staff for a little while, right?
And he did the widget
I
library.
don't know if he was just like adjunct. Yeah.
Well, he's
That
in
little-
Ireland, right? But was
He
he
is.
was he in California when he was working for Corona Labs, or was he
no,
sort
he
of
was
like working
he was
remote?
in, he was in
He's here
Ireland.
just right now, wherever he's at.
He was in Ireland.
But there were just weird things that he came up with that just I loved. Like he had back when there was back when Test Flight was still not Apple, but it was its own thing. Like he just made this little, a Mac app that would take your build and package it right. Turn it into an APK.
Oh right.
And it's not something that you couldn't just do on your own, but it was this great little tool that he just made and threw up there. And I used it for the longest time.
Well, he
until
used to be.
Test Flight went away.
He used to be Gremlin Interactive,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
under that he published all of those plugins.
And
He's
then
confusing me with this new.
I just remember that he kind of got a bum rap. Like there was kind of some craziness going on in the forum for one of his plugins where people were displeased about the cost, and they're like, this should be free, and you're not, there's not enough value here for this.
how
that.
anybody who's making apps to try and sell them on an app store can say that about anything that they use just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It really hurt me, actually, to be quite honest with you, because I was like, man, this dude is just trying to pay bills. Like, why are you breaking his balls? Like, if you did,
No, I remember
people doing
when
it, they don't have bills to pay.
I remember when he shuttered Gremlin Interactive. I do. I remember him writing forum posts, and you could tell he was just like, he didn't want to do it, but at a certain point, you just got to pull up stakes. You got to go, there's only so many hours in the day, and I have needs, and I have obligations, and if this isn't meeting them, then you got to chase
Hey,
that.
so
This beer isn't going to drink itself.
I got a question here about have you guys ever done those push notifications?
Yeah, working on
Push
something with push
notifications, you like
notifications
those,
right
don't
now.
you?
What's up?
You like those things, right?
No,
Very
I
nice.
hate them, but got to put them
Okay,
in
well-
some apps.
You like the
Okay,
push notification?
I got some questions about them. You can field them
Okay.
real quick. I'm gonna shoot them at you. I'm sorry, Jason.
No, I made a bad joke.
Go on, push
Okay.
notifications.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna throw these at you real quick. You access them through Apple, and then your device or your build has the ability to make push notifications to send them, right? And you can send them like scheduled like updates to all devices, right?
So I use pushbots,
Or
That's
you use push bots.
pushbots.com. And
Okay, is it a
I'm
mod?
using the Coronium library to do pushes from a backend server. I'm not doing them out of my app, so I don't know about pushing out of an app. My
Okay.
two avenues for getting push notifications to users are through the pushbots interface on the website for the account.
I don't do push box. The thing is, I don't rely on too many third-party things.
Well, it's free up to a certain amount.
So is OpenFaint.
Oh, yeah, but then OpenFaint disappeared. Is that
No, I'm just asking like a question about the normal ones.
Okay, so what's the question again?
Know about the normal ones, like the.
Eric's looking for something, I think, that's sending push notifications out of a device without a third-party intermediary.
Is that what you're trying to do? Wow, you're a better interpreter than I am, Alex, because I missed that. That sounds so negative. Man, I don't know why everything comes out of my mouth sounds negative. The answer is no, I probably don't have a good answer for you. So just to get it again, you're trying to do the pushes out of your device to whom?
I guess you guys have never put push notification. Can Corona put push notifications in the device, like through Apple?
Well, I think everybody's done one iteration or another where you send it. Yeah, you send it through the server. Because usually what happens is that it goes through a server and then bounces off of Apple or Google's push interface, and then it comes down to your device.
Yeah, I'm using
that's the normal way.
Like I said, I'm using a third party to make that part of my life easier.
All right.
So, but what part of it's troubling you? That's the question. What part of it is not working for you?
Well, it's not that it's not working for me. I'm not here to like give grand advice. I'm here to like talk about push notifications for a second.
Oh.
One of the things that I'm wondering like how they work, because I know you can store your own data on your own device, and you can send out. Could you send out a push notification based on time, push notification based on the event, or both?
I'm going to say yes to both.
Yeah. Eric, are you wondering if you can send that out, like just code in just a timer that sends it like every hour?
Is there like a super simple like push notification, like the most basic raw one?
I believe so. I think there's local push notifications, right, Ed, that you can just set up in your app?
I want to say yes. I want to say yes because I've dealt with delayed delivered push notifications. And then push notifications based on events. So I want to say yes. The problem is I can't say it definitively because I've never done the coding. I've always used somebody else's server.
Eric, that's the API link right there. I know you've got a big project, so you don't have time to look for it. Inside jokes.
Yeah, real funny. I know exactly what you're referring to. Haha.
So do I. So do I.
The idea behind that is that those local push notifications. I think you just code them right in your main or whatever your push module is, and then that'll send them on your proscribed schedule. Whether or not maybe you send something from your server or it queries your server at a certain time, blah blah, that kind of a thing. You know what I mean? I think that's what you're looking for.
But, you totally got it. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
All right, there you go. So to explain, to reiterate here for the stream.
Boom! There's my boy, Alex.
I'm always there for you, kiddo.
You're the guy.
I'm always there for you. So what Eric was looking for was a way to send push notifications without a server intermediary, right? So he wanted to be able to send information, or maybe not even send anything. He just wanted to have something pop up on a user's desktop, for lack of a better term, that says, "Hey, you haven't played Questlord or whatever in 30 minutes. You should probably get back because they're having withdrawal," or something like that.
This might be nitpicking. Is that technically a push notification if it's generating from the device, or is that just a notification?
I don't know what they. It's called. It's just a notification. Yeah, but they use kind of the push interface without the server
mechanism.
Yeah, it's so under the push. It's under the
notification.
Right. Exactly. It's native. It's above the OpenGL layer, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not gonna start pretending like I know a lot about that, but I think
I think the
sure Stephen would have corrected me if
because
not.
We can't execute while the app is hibernated, but if you schedule a push, then you can always pull people back in.
So in theory.
Later, and boom, then they get their notification and come back and play another hour.
Right. In theory.
Eric, what were you trying to accomplish? Is that what you're trying to do?
Well, yeah, it's just to a degree. I mean, I just want to set one up.
Oh, okay.
Put my foot in that forest.
I didn't know if you just had like a component of your game that you were trying to implement, or if you were just trying to do it for engagement purposes, or what were you doing?
Engagement purposes. So okay. I can just that way a little one will pop up on their app.
Exactly.
And that's what we're talking about, right?
Yep.
I'm sure there's like super duper fancier ways of doing it.
I think also a lot of the notifications, with the local ones, Eric, don't quote me on this, but I don't know if you can get a badge on the app. I don't know. I don't know if it says that in the docs. I didn't even read through them. I just know that's what we're there.
Right.
Let's see.
I imagine that if you push it and it gets sent to the server and then sent back to you later, that you'd get a badge.
Yeah, I don't think there's a server involved, and it does look like the local notifications have badges. So.
Well, that's even better.
Yeah, the badge number to be displayed.
About going through Apple, because like Apple and Google have their thing set up, so you get like it's kind of like using Game Center.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's an awesome idea. I always thought about the idea of just actually, like I was saying, just every hour when they haven't played, just check it out and say, hey, you haven't collected this, or your guy is hanging here, or you haven't
picked up your free gift.
Exactly. You guys are missing out on the sweetest bundle in the world.
Yeah, I tend to like it. I like notifications when it's relevant to my gameplay. Right,
and
not just a reminder that hey, I want you to come back and play, but
Eric, Charles, you know what I saw? I was actually talking to a guy, and he was like, you know what? he was like, we were just talking about game styles. He was like, I really want to make something like Clumsy Ninja. Has anybody ever played that?
That's such a fun little thing.
And I uninstalled it because it has those ridiculous tailored push notifications where it's like, hey, your guy hasn't done a flip yet.
Right.
Come back and do that flip.
I just anytime an app asks me if I want to give push sorry, Eric, I'm not the target audience for your push notifications. Anytime it asks me if I want to push notifications, I'm like, oh God, no.
Well, Apple really wants you to ask for permission when when the context is right, when it makes sense. Yeah, not right from the beginning. They want you to be like at that point where you're going to do something, and then they're like, hey, would you like to be enable push notifications?
Which kudos to Corona Labs. I think it was a couple of months ago they made a change, and initially it was prompting right on launch. If you had push notifications, it was prompting, and now I think we have the ability to sort of pick and choose when that ask happens.
Yeah. I've seen that even applied to creating accounts. So let's say you have a profile-based application. I've seen instances where they'll ask you, the app will ask you a series of questions that are relevant to your profile, but they won't ask you to create a profile until after they asked you the series of questions, right? So now you're 10 questions into this little profile setup, and you're like, and then they're like, oh, okay, now you pick a username and a password and do all of that, right? To me, that makes a whole lot more sense than just showing a registration screen right from the beginning and expecting you to make that to bridge that gap of trust. So I think those types of things have a lot of merit, trying to ask for things in context.
So slight change of topic, although not terribly so. I think the notion of achievements is not too far off from notifications. The topic of Game Center came up earlier. So I'm trying to put finishing touches on my Screenshot Saturday app, which sort of pulls, which is built off of which was the impetus for my Twitter plugin and is built off of my Twitter plugin. So it pulls images from have the hashtag Screenshot Saturday. And part of my tweaking on that is adding other game dev related hashtags. So if you guys have any that you follow or think are useful, and there'll be switches, you can pick and choose which hashtags it's going to search for. But let me know. But I had a thought the other day. I was like, I can gamify this. It's not a game, but I can make it so that if you retweet 10 of these things, you can get an achievement. If you follow 25 game devs from inside the app, you can get an achievement. What do you guys think of that? Is that silly? Is that a waste of time, or is that cool?
What's your reasoning for wanting to do it?
So I can be the mayor of a hashtag.
That's the way to encourage engagement, I think. I think if you're using it and you get a little...
Then it's not silly.
Okay.
Because
I like hashtags. I'm pro hashtag.
Yeah, I think you can.
About the achievements for doing things here.
Are you gonna unlock characters, or what are you gonna what are you gonna unlock?
He just wants to show screenshots made by other screenshot game developers. Right? That's what he wants to do with Screenshot Saturday app.
Yeah.
So he's also gonna.
So here,
That's cool.
let me preview it real quick. I'm gonna try and show my screen if that's okay. How do we do this here? So
You'll probably have to show the whole screen.
Yep. So I'm gonna. Are you guys? I'm using multiple desktops. Are you guys seeing an Xcode window right now?
We are.
Okay,
I can
cool.
see it.
So let me fire up the simulator here.
I keep muting myself.
So you're just by order too.
So, so you see them popping up, and these are sort of pulling the most recent screenshots that are tagged with Screenshot Saturday. You tap it, and it gives you, here's the user's, image. There's their name. There's
nice choice.
I got it in my house. In my head. In my head, I have this little kid going, "This is my house, bitches."
I just got Charles to curse. I just got Charles to curse on the podcast.
That's just your remote. That was like mind control.
And this is a really, early rough version of this. But eventually there will be little buttons for follow this person, retweet this, maybe reply to them. Certainly a button that will pop you out of this app and view that tweet in the context of the official Twitter app or in Safari. But I'm thinking like there could be all sorts of fun little applications for this. Like if you are a game dev and one of your tweets gets loaded up, you're gonna get an achievement for that.
Say that again, Jason.
So let's say you have a Twitter account and you post a screenshot and you hashtag it Screenshot Saturday. The first time you view one of your own screenshots from within the app, you're going to get an achievement for that.
There you go. You can have a little app achiever game devs.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely going to go.
My hope with it is that, it's another app out there, and that's always fun to do. That it might, that other game devs will see it and think that it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it fosters community for sure.
My deal with this whole thing too is that it's going to be free, obviously, and I think I might put like an in-app purchase, and I'm literally going to call it Attaboy. And it's just if you like it, if you think this is cool, and you want to give me an Attaboy and give me 99 cents, sweet, great, cool. And so then if you take one of these, you toss it away, the next one pops up. And then I'm going to have like I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, maybe a drawer or something where if you like it, you're going to maybe drag it off to the right. I'm going to go Tinder rules. You don't like it, send it left. You like it, go right.
Tinder
Brutal.
And you drop it in, and you drop it into your drawer, and that'll be saved.
Hey, what do you know about Tinder? What are you talking about?
Very little, but I think it's left is bad and right is good, right? And so, yeah, my hope with it is that other people will find it cool, that it might find a little bit of an audience, that it builds some goodwill within the game dev community. And I'm not going to lie, a little part of me hopes that it might warrant an article from one or two, like, game dev-oriented websites. Like,
hey, what's your Twitter account, Jason?
Schroeder Apps.
Schroeder. Do you know my Twitter account?
What's that?
If you tweet that at me, or you tweet your Twitter account at me, I could get you to the right guys for that.
Are you Lava Level? Is that what you go by?
You're Schroeder, S-C-H?
S-C-H-R-O-E-D-E-R, like the Peanuts character.
Follow me. I know a bunch of game dev nerds that would love that.
Okay, great. I definitely will, and then hopefully, it's like the basic gist of it is in place, and like anything, it's like the finishing touches, making it presentable is always the last hardest bit.
Sure.
But, hopefully it'll, I'm working on a couple of client projects right now, and literally this thing has been kicking around since last year. My hope was originally to make it a ship jam thing, and then that didn't happen. And then I just needed a break. I was working on something, and I was just like, oh, God, I just need to kick something around. So I opened it up, I started tweaking it again, and I was like, you know what? This is close. This could, with a little bit of work, get ready. It was a perfect ship jam thing, and I effed up in that it didn't become my ship jam entry. But you know what?
I like it.
Twitter plugin, so that's good.
You gonna put a leaderboard to it, like the person who has the most.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I was suddenly thinking about. I was like, this could be a fun little thing to throw in there, and doesn't take a whole lot of work. Maybe if I do it, I'm gonna want to come up. I can't have like 5 achievements. I'm gonna have to have like at least 20 achievements. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I think it could be cool.
Well, it already is cool.
Well, and my hope is that I would love for, I don't know, some game dev oriented website to write a blurb about it. That would make me really happy. And I think if I do my job right, that could happen.
Sure. I know a lot of places don't do a story on that thing. And link to it.
A guy I went to high school with, brother, writes for Killscreen. So I'm like, I gotta work that.
You gotta work
that angle.
They only cover like the most of esoteric, so it's got to be.
I know
like...
it may or may not fit their mold, but Alex actually turned me on to that site, and they're a cool site.
I cannot stop reading Killscreen.
No, they're really great. I have to say too, I've gotten into game podcasts lately, and I'm trying to find ones that are more oriented towards the maker side of it as opposed to the consumer side of it.
Impossible to find. Impossible. It's
Match
so
3 is a new one. They only have maybe a dozen episodes, but they're good. And what's cool about them is they don't necessarily focus on like, hey, here's the game I'm playing, and it's super cool. And like, I mean, some of them I like, but it's like, oh god, I don't want to hear you talk about the combos, the new combos in the new Street Fighter game. I mean, that's great. I'm glad you like it, but whatever. But Match 3 it takes more of a kill screen approach to it. They're gonna talk. It's like a guy from Kotaku, a freelance games journalist who just sort of writes blog pieces, and a middle school teacher, which I think is awesome.
Let's talk. I think talking game dev podcast, I think is a fantastic segue, Jason. I'm glad you brought it up.
Is that a YouTube channel you're talking about?
No, they're pretty new. You can find. I personally get my podcasts through iTunes just because I'm like Apple oriented.
Jason, link that shit up so everybody can get it.
Yeah, because Match 3 is way too common a term. I can't find it.
Yeah. Give me a sec here.
I actually listened to Games Design Roundtable. I don't know how many of you guys listen to that.
I don't know that one. That's a new one for me.
It's kind of the catch-all, Eric.
I don't listen to any of that stuff anymore because I used to work in an office with game developers, and I used to have to hear them talk all the time. That'd be crazy.
I would say Match 3 is not game devs, it's game journalists, but they take a sort of more sociological approach to what's interesting about games. So it's not necessarily about games reviews or what we're reading, it's more like...
Game design?
A little bit. It touches on that.
Well, Eric, I feel you, because I don't know if any of you guys ever read or ever listened to the Walled Garden podcast with the dudes who made Zombie Highway.
Mm-hmm.
I totally forget what their names are. I'm blanking, but it was pretty much insufferable. No offense to those dudes. Right. We were just like, they'd be drinking craft beers and being like, man, it really does suck having all this money and not really knowing what to make next. And
yeah, who
like,
drinks on a broadcast?
Ash and Kevin.
Exactly. It's like, because they had all the money from when the App Store was like a day old, and so it's just they're talking about games in like this fun ivory tower way, and like the first 2 were cool, but then you're like, I just really am so envious that I want to throw these guys out a window. So
I think to murder you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the trap that I fall into when I find a podcast that I like, but it's like game dev in that way. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying, but it's like, look, and when I see this on Twitter, it also kind of rankles me, and like I really need to take a calming breath. I need to draw it in and just become centered, because it's like people are like, hey man, I just made $100,000 on my game, $0 of marketing, just because it's so good. I don't know what you guys are doing wrong, and I'm like, all right. Alex.
Please give me your address so I can.
You're just getting mad. Take it easy. Take it easy. Everything is fine.
What I'm doing wrong is not reaching through the screen and kicking your ass.
And so it's like, I get what they're coming from, because that feels awesome when you succeed like that. That's great. And of course you're excited for them. But at the same time, it's like, come on, man. Like, let's not pretend like you didn't have a fun mix of luck in there. Like, of course, the games are great. Of course they're great. You won't have a moneymaker if it's not quality. You know what I mean?
For the viewers at home, Charles just informed us in the chat window of the definition of rankle.
I was like, what did you say? He said rankle. He's rankled.
I mix in Yiddish slang and street knowledge.
I thought that was a dry cleaning term. That's a southern dry cleaning term.
Is rankle Yiddish? I'm like, oh, that's a sign that
you rankled your shirt there, son.
My shirt.
Thanks for bringing us back down to earth, Charles. We'll try to stop using those highfalutin words.
Yeah, right.
Get my dander up. It gets my dander up on Twitter, Charles.
Dander. Better look that one out.
I love that you use the word highfalutin, Ed, because I will say this, and this is touching on something that Charles mentioned. I want to say, was it in yesterday's podcast you were interested about how people brand themselves and their websites and stuff?
Yeah.
So right now I'm Jason Schroeder App Designs. I'm jasonschroeder.com. That's mainly for client projects and what have you. But the game I'm working on now will be the first that I release under my software company, which is not even a registered company yet, but I bought the domain name, which is Highfalutin Software, because I just like the term highfalutin, and it's so the opposite of what I am, in my mind at least.
I saw you with that gray goose over there, Jay. That's top shelf.
That's my wife. My wife is can I tell you, it's the best. I normally would not be drinking in front of a podcast, but Fresh Direct sent us 2 things of orange juice when we should have had 1. So I said, well, I can make a screwdriver and we can clear up some room in the fridge that we need.
Started us off a couple podcasts ago with his Courvoisier.
Courvoisier.
Right, man. I had my smoking jacket. I was working hard on it.
Hey, by the way, stud.io is taken.
Oh, that was all you, man.
I should have registered it.
Bigstud.io?
Yeah, I like to give those things. Oh yes, it was a big stud. Was that what I?
But that touches on too. So I bought highfalutinsoftware.com because that's like the official one, and then I bought highfalut.in. So technically, I'm an Indian company now, I suppose. But
there you go. Well, bigstud.io is still available.
Why is every podcast eventually involves us looking for domains to buy?
This is a pastime of yours, Charles. I've discovered this.
It is. It's a sickness. I have to look these things up, or I can't sleep at night.
Dude, I remember I was reading a Gawker article, and the head and the lead picture was this dude who's blackout drunk, arms around his bros from the frat party or whatever, and the title was like, "This guy just bought $150 million worth of domain names, and he just sold 30,000 for 1.2 billion." And I'm like, what the hell is going on in the world today?
There is a part of me that goes like, I was a teenager in the 90s, working at a university, so having access to the internet, knowing what networksolutions.com was. And part of me goes like, oh my God, if I could go back in time and just tell myself, buy them all. Buy them all.
Yeah. You're like Oscar Schindler, Jason. We could have bought one more. You could have bought one more.
Oh my God.
Like if I had a time machine, killing Hitler would still be number 1 on my list, but number 2 would definitely be buying StarWars.com.
Did you guys see there was that the EU Commission is like bringing a grievance against that cosplay company who sells like novelty Star Wars costumes because they own StarWars.co.uk, and they're like, we need to give it back, and they're like,
were they not looking to like sell it? Because that seems like a typical squatter thing. Like
they're using it. They use it. They direct people to their Star Wars store where they sell Star Wars stuff. Like clothes and,
I'm surprised that they're making more from that than they would from selling it to Lucasfilm.
Well, that's the wrinkle. Lucasfilm is like, we're taking it. We have eminent domain on this domain name. It's ours as far as.
Yeah, I mean the laws are going to catch up at some point, right? Like
they're fighting it. They're fighting it like true patriots, which is going to be hilarious. Digital patriots.
Well, now it's not even Lucasfilm; it's Disney. Oh, jeez.
They're never going to win. Disney is like, you know what I mean? Mickey's going to take him in a back room and work him over.
I knew there was going to be a mouse joke in there any moment.
There's this author named shit. I'm not even gonna say his name because he's crazy. He's like one of those tinfoil hat conspiracy theory guys, but he calls it Mousekowitz.
Mouse what?
Mousekowitz, like Auschwitz.
Oh,
yeah. Yes, exactly.
Hey, Rankle.me is taken.
That's a good one.
Somebody stop him now.
Rankle.com is available for $15,000.
I will say, being a guy who lives in New York, they added a .nyc domain recently, and I'm tempted to snatch up some stuff for that.
I think that's kind of. You need to get Gotham.nyc. Do they already have that gone?
I'm sure they do. I mean,
it's probably the first one. I wanted to grab a couple of XXX domains. Just I thought it would be a funny idea.
Did that ever actually happen? I remember reading that.
I could have sworn, but I haven't looked, and it was kind of expensive, so I was like, I'm probably not gonna. You know what? Did I tell you guys before? My first son was in. He was born. We were in the hospital, whatever. And I was sitting there on my laptop, and I was like, poopspace.com is free. I am going to be fucking rich with this domain right now, and I can't believe it's available. I'm just going to be rolling in money, and I think it was just a sleep deprivation that was causing that.
The sleep deprivation is real.
Rankleapps.com is available.
You haven't even checked out rankleme.tumblr.com yet.
Oh, good.
What's going on? Tumblr's the new hotness. So are we talking about?
Tell you, this whole thing is starting to rankle me.
Oh,
it's getting rankled. It needs to go pick his wife up from the airport.
You know what? Well, I'm going to.
No, already did that. That's not funny. Haha.
Alex, you sound like you've got the inside track on some good podcasts. And speaking as a guy who spends like upwards of 90 minutes a day on the subway, I'm all about finding good podcasts.
All right, jerks. All right, fools, listen up. You ready? Take a list. Here we go. You had Games Design one. That's good. Eric and I were just talking about Touch Arcade.
Come on, Game Design Dojo. Is that what you're talking about?
If they haven't put out one in the last 4 weeks, I'm not interested.
That's true.
Well, Eric and I were talking about Touch Arcade.
Jason's not interested about what? I gotta hear this.
No, Jason's interested in podcasts.
But every now and again, I'll search for like what's a good podcast, and I'll look at it. I'll be like, their latest one is from February. Not interested.
I think that if I might jump in here for 5 seconds, I think that the importance of a podcast is to find like a podcast that you're going to be on, or that's going to be talking about your product, and that is not listened to by game devs, but listened to by audience members. That is where a podcast is.
Well, now we're talking about two different things because Eric's talking about enjoyment because he says he's on the subway.
I've been ranking on one of them. Like I've had I was on 2 Touch Arcade podcasts.
Yeah.
Like my game and stuff, and that's great. I mean, that's what you want. So that's a good podcast that I always keep up with. And you know what the cool thing about Touch Arcade podcast? If I might drop a little Touch Arcade podcast.
Please do.
Plug here on the it's the latest apps that come out that that the forum kids are talking about. That stuff's pretty cool, and it's pretty smart to listen to.
I think the interesting thing about Touch Arcade's podcast is it's their 1.5 product. You know what I mean? Like Touch Arcade has an app that you can download that will.
It's just a wrapper for their forum site, though. Basically,
it is. That's definitely true. I think that's product 1. I think they really pushed that, and I think that podcast is 1.5. I mean, they're huge on that podcast. Maybe not everybody. A lot of people listen to it. I mean, like I said, Eric's a fan. I liked it a lot. I liked it when Brad Nicholson was on there. I forget what his name is, but
yeah, he was really good. He went off to work on Planetary Annihilation at Uber. He was like their what do you call it when you wrangle all the people together in a Kickstarter?
Project manager?
No, more of like the community manager.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Uber? He works for Uber?
I think that's really good stuff. Yeah, there's some pretty good podcasts out there. I find a lot of times I kind of cross wires if I go off listening to too many developer podcasts. Some of those things, like you were saying, Alex, they always just serve like the one path that someone took.
That is the weird thing about it, isn't it? Because they kind of talk about like what worked for them and not what works, or what has worked, or what might work, or what could work.
Yeah, that's one thing I kind of miss about the olden days, if I might pontificate about when you finished a game, you did the pros and cons of it when it was done. You know what I mean?
Right.
When I worked in the theater, we called that a post-mortem.
They have post-mortems on Gamma Sutra, which I think are excellent, personally. There's one for 100 Rogues. Did you guys read the 100 Rogues post-mortem?
Mm-mm.
That guy, or was it a girl? I think it was a guy. He was like so honest. He like laid everything out raw, and he was like, "Man, this was the worst. There were nights I was crying. Like, I lost weight. My friends were like, "You look like shit, man. Like, you need to stop doing this. This is killing you." He was talking about the port.
Wait, we can do this in a way that we lose weight? Shit, I gotta get on that.
We're doing it wrong, bro. We are doing it wrong. My God, I can feel my neck getting fatter as the days go by. But I mean, his post-mortem, I mean, it was really, really interesting, and I always like reading those, whether successful or not. I really always find use out of those.
I'll say I'm really glad we're talking about the podcasting, because I feel like I've tried I've recently gotten back onto the podcast thing, and I had sort of listened for a little while to, not game dev stuff, but just podcasts in general, and I've gotten back onto it, and now I'm listening to game podcasts, and I feel like I'm listening to stuff that's more consumer focused. Like, my favorite one is Retronauts. I don't know, because it speaks to me as an old guy who plays games. But I feel like I don't want to listen to a podcast that just talks about, like, hey, here's the new video games that we're playing and we really love them. But I don't know that I need to listen to one all about necessarily how the hot dog is made.
Right.
I think Watch 3, actually, speaking as somebody who just started listening to them, and they're new, I think they only have 11 or 12 episodes, I think they strike a nice medium for what I'm looking for, but I'm looking for, like, more of that.
I think that's when I actually originally tried to get in touch with Charles those many years ago, and like, dude, we need to get something like this started. I'm not saying we should have done it then. This is the right climate for it right now, and this is the kind of thing that I think people would be interested in. We're talking a little bit about dev, we're talking a little bit about marketing, we're talking a little bit about promotion. You know, we've got the genius. We've got the brain trust, Ed and Steven on the line here to correct us when we start talking shit about, you know, metatables and things like that. So that's definitely useful, you know. You got Eric in the back who's doing the damn thing down there in Texas, and I think this is a really great formula. It's hard to find.
Texas heavy, I'll say. This is a Texas heavy group.
It is.
Which is kind of cool.
Are you in Texas, Steven? I thought you were in Mexico.
I'm slightly south of Texas.
Texas used to be Mexico.
Yeah, exactly.
Texas's child called Mexico.
It's about 2 hours to the border if I go north.
It's the appendage that hangs off of Texas.
Are you in Mexico City, Steven?
No, I'm in Monterey.
Okay.
Northeast.
And where you're United States by birth?
Yeah, Minnesota.
Okay. Oh, right on.
Are you serious? You sound like you're Norwegian or something. That's an amazing accent you got going on.
Funny how that works.
It is. It's incredible how that works. People, like, I feel like I don't have an accent, but whenever I meet people, like, you know, you are from Philly and a half right now, dude. Like, you sound exactly like you are from, like...
Isn't that so funny? You sound totally normal to me.
Right, exactly. I'm
from Philly.
Yeah, me and Jay are from the same place, so... You know, we just look. Okay, back to podcast now. I think this is kind of what people are really looking for. I think this doesn't really come up because either you have people that have made it and they're talking about how they made it, or you're talking to people that it's a marketing podcast. And I think to Eric's point, it's important to know about them. It's important to keep an eye on them. So when a theme comes up on their show that would apply to your genre or whatever, you know, you're promoting a game. Awesome, obviously, you know, you want to go with that, but at the same time, it's like, what do you write? What do you want to listen to on the subway? I mean, I pretty much spend, you know, 9 to 10 hours of my day just sitting here at this computer listening to podcasts and just typing, you know, tippity typing into the computer here. I mean, I really like Roguelike Radio. I put the link up there for that. The guy, Darren Gray is kind of the admin of that. He's an interesting dude. And there's the guy who did Angband, and they often have the guy who did Caves of Quid as a contributor on here. So these are all, you know, old school ASCII roguelikes that aren't really graphical in nature for the most part. I think that's a really interesting thing.
Did that like make the news? I feel like I'd never heard of it before, but I saw something about it in the last week or two.
People are playing that game like bonkers, dude. And it actually looks really cool, and it's one of those old school roguelikes where it's like you can do anything. You can make like a character with 3 heads and 6 arms and all that. So it's that kind of a feel. I've got to be honest, like those kinds of roguelikes aren't really my bag. I prefer I prefer at least a little bit of character graphics personally. That's just me. But they actually on that podcast on Roguelike Radio, they talk a lot about procedural stuff. So they talk a lot about generation, design, what constitutes a win condition, should you have a win, things like that are kind of integral to what a game is, but they talk about it in an interesting way, and they can kind of come at it, because not all the games they talk about are super successful, but they have developers on that have released, they've gone to market with these games, and they talk about how they did it, and why they did it this way, which I find always valuable. The why, I think, is always useful, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel. So those are my go-tos, and looks like Charles is cutting us off.
No, I'm gonna say this felt like it's become a bit of a conversation between me and Alex lately.
Yeah. The Philly boys.
Well, I just want to say thanks a lot for all the links that I have to follow up on now.
I know.
Right.
I have
Did everybody read my link?
tabs.
Did everybody read the link last week about the Vine star, about Logan Paul? I can't believe we didn't talk about him this week. Oh my god. Brutal. Maybe next week.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Well, it's been a good one as usual. Thanks for joining and showing up and participating.
Yeah, no, Charles, I'm really glad you added the second podcast. I will say this is like something I look forward to in the week.
Hey, it was it was Alex's idea. He did this a long time ago. It just took me that long to get to it.
Talking about vines and stuff.
Right.
I just needed somebody to listen to me for 2 hours. That's all. I needed some group therapy. You guys are being very nice.
He just wanted to sit and drink with us while we weren't drinking.
Exactly
You know what's going on over there behind the no camera.
Let me tell you about the pine trees over here, guys. Oh my god.
All right, you guys, take it easy. You have a good week.
Have a great week.
Adios.
Peace out.
Bye.
Later, guys.